Monty. Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 12th of May. And I thought, why don't we all talk about horror? Yeah. And here we are. In fact, I just need to turn you because this tremendous. Tremendous, everybody. Oh my goodness me, I have to talk to you about this. All Fall Down, also known as the God Project. Why? Of all the things that ruin a good book is a sticker. We'll be removing that later. Yes, so I picked that up yesterday at a charity bookstore, which I thought was rather good. Do you know what today is as well? International Nurses Day. So, yay to all the nurses out there. You're doing a grand old job. And don't let anybody tell you that you're not. I'm proud of you. You put up with so much. It's not a job, is it, girls and boys? It's a vocation, it's a calling in life. To care so deeply about another person, it's a beautiful thing. And thank you. Thank you so much for doing what you do, for taking care of us when we're at our most vulnerable. Yeah. And when we're at our most weakest. It certainly isn't a job that you rush into. It's one that you consider, or you should be considering quite seriously. Going into nursing, it's demanding. Sometimes it's thankless. People today are more demanding than they have ever been. So congratulations to all you nurses out there on your International Nurses Day. May you get the recognition that you so richly deserve. I'll be back in a minute. These are water tanks, and mine was empty. I had to replace it. There we go. I'm back, everybody. How you doodling? How you doing, my darlings? There we are. Perfect. Dare I say myself. Anyway, we're here to talk about horror. And we're here to talk about my horror haul that I have managed one book this weekend, which is a John Saul. Do you know, I've gone years, never ever heard of John Saul. And then it's like buses. Next minute, 2 John Sauls come into my life. When the Wind Blows and All Fall Down, which I've found out since All Fall Down is being renamed, and it used to be known as the God Project. And there's not a lot I know about John Saul, other than he's an American writer. I don't even know if he's still alive. Well, he was quite a prolific writer in the 70s and 80s, maybe into the 90s. I'm not sure. But if anybody knows anything about John Saul, drop me a line, tell me a little bit about him so I know what I'm going into. Because honestly, never heard of the guy. I know. And for somebody that reads exclusively horror or pandemic novels or end of the world novels, dystopian novels, you know, nuclear war novels, which is end of the world, you would have thought I might have come across John Saul before, but I have not. Oh, and if anybody's wondering where Monty is, dare I say, galloping round the garden, investigating everything we dug up yesterday. We are letting the ground settle at the moment, and we've just exclusively removed brambles out of the garden. And we are leaving the bluebells that we have, as they are a protected species, to dry out and reseed before we take the grass up and everything around them. And then we will start, my darlings, seeding for summer in about a week's time. And poppy, cornflower, daisy, oxeye daisy, whatever we can get to grow, we'll be shoving it in. But this is one thing about a woodland garden, they are very forgiving. However, we lost the major tree that was in there. Unfortunately, it got infected. We think it was some kind of fungus. Anyway, it rotted it from the inside out. And when you're talking of a tree as big as that, I mean, it was a fully grown, mature tree, sycamore as well. But it rotted from the inside. And then after that, it just started to split. And when you've got that leaning over your house, and we have spectacular storms in the winter up here. I mean, you think at the summertime, it's so beautiful and gorgeous and sun shining. Right, you flip it forward 6 months and we are almost like hurricane gales up here. It's rough. Living up north is rough. And it rains and it blows a hoolie. And if you're not careful, if you've got a big tree by your house, it's going to go through your roof, which is what we were in danger of. So that's why the poor thing had to come down. I mean, we're trying to cultivate a new sapling, but I don't have a lot of luck at the moment. So we'll try again. We will keep on trying until we get the right one. But anyway, yes, back to horror. All things horror. Guess what they've made? Is it into a mini-series? Is it a movie? The Long Walk by Stephen King or Richard Bachman, as it was back in the day. The Long Walk. Oh my goodness me. I got excited when I realised that the Major was being played by Mark Hamill. I was like, take my money. Take my money. I am going to go and see this. I love Luke Skywalker. Oh, excuse me. Oh, thank you very much. All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Well, I'm sorry, everyone. Do excuse me. Parcel delivery lady. That's who I am today. There we go. So yeah, we're talking about the long walk. I don't know if it's a mini series or if it's going to be a movie, but I literally saw the trailer last week and I was like, take my money. I have to see this. Adored the book. I mean, you can see, nearly 50 years old, right? This story is nearly 50 years old. It's one of the most earliest pieces of work, apart from The Mangler, which is also a Stephen King short story, appeared in the magazine before it became Graveyard Shift, right? I've talked to you about that before. But anyway, getting back to the long walk. 100 boys and as many miles as they can, with the last one standing, winner takes all. Now, a long walk and one winner, yeah, you think that is horrific enough. Hold my cup of tea. You ain't seen nothing yet. Those poor boys, they have to walk, even if they get what's commonly known in the book as a Charlie horse, which is cramp up their legs, stomach cramps everywhere. These poor boys, once they start walking, that is it. If they get a cramp in their foot, arm, leg, any perhaps bad stomach, heart palpitation, does not matter. They have to keep walking. They get 3 warnings. If their speed drops below 4 miles, right? 4 miles per hour, which is walking speed. Yeah, I've got that bit right. You get a warning. Then you get a second warning. And after your third warning, you get your ticket punched. And you are off to sing with the angels, my darlings, because that is a nice way of saying, don't come Monday. You will be awarded the DCM. Don't come Monday. Because you ain't going to be there on Monday. Or any other day for that matter. So you really... How did things get so bad, right, in America, that 100 boys thought it would be a good idea to go on a march to the death? Right? Yes, I know we all start off thinking, I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. It takes a special person to get to the end, right? And yet, here we are, living the dream, getting ready to do that walk. All of us convinced that we're going to be the winner. It astounds me. And then people on the sidelines, and they're cheering these poor souls on, going, you can do it. You can do it. Who are they kidding? These poor individual boys are all, is it brainwashed? Are things so bad that the walk is preferable to existence? Here we are, all walking along. I guess it's a metaphor for all of us. Because I've really, really thought about this. I really have. And is it a metaphor for life? That we're all doing the long walk. Every single person on this, all 7 billion of us are all doing the long walk. right? And we're all of us convinced that we're going to make it. And getting the warnings as you go through, life, as in like the book. And then you get your third one, and if you haven't, if you can't keep up, what was you can't keep up? What was if your feet are rubbed raw to the point that you've got no more skin in them, like some of the boys in that book, right? And you just cannot go any further. You're going to get your ticket punched, right? Well, that is life. If you can't go any further, you will get your ticket punched. At some point, mine will be. But I'd like it to be at the end of my life rather than the beginning. Well, obviously, that's a given, isn't it? What an oxymoron thing to say. Yeah, I'd like to be an old lady. Yes. Having experienced fun in life without, the experiences that we're given, I guess. But hey, I've had the experiences. I can't unsee what I've seen. I can't undo what I've done. I can't change what people have done. And I think that that's what the long walk is basically trying to tell you. And anyway, these plucky young lads, these 100 young lads, all think they're going to win. Work out the odds on that, right? Somebody give me a mathematical working out on the odds of 100 men, young boys, yeah, because not one of them, I think, is over the age of 18. They're so young. Oh, and it's the naivety of youth that is the horror of that book. It really is. And it's the naivety of them all thinking that they're going to make it, and not one person has literally sat down and explained exactly what it is they're going into. Do they know the consequences of their actions? Do they realise that in signing up, and not only did they sign up for this, they had to write an essay. I know, they had to write an essay to be considered for the long walk. Yeah, they had to beat that competition. The essay of their destiny, basically, to give them the opportunity to take part in this war, or why they think they'd be a good candidate. I mean, that's sick. Not only are they going to walk these young men to death, and they do, they're going to make them beg to go and walk to death. Horror. Oh, that's the horror within, what they're doing to themselves, and the horror on the outside. Remember I talked to you about this? And it was a lecture that John Carpenter was giving about the understanding the origins of horror. Well, here we are, seeing it in its rawest form. Yes. So these 100 young men, off they go. And they're walking, and they're not allowed to go to the toilet. They have to go when they're walking. So can you imagine doing a number 1 or a number 2? Awful. And it's degrading. And it's the dehumanization. There's your horror. The and the cheering people. Oh, the sickness. The sickness in society that we would be willing to stand on the bystanders, the bystanders on the side of the road, cheering these poor boys on, saying, "You can do it. We know you can. Go, Ray Garrity." He's like one of the main characters. And holding up signs saying, "We believe in you." And you've got multi-major corporations with billboards on the side of the road advertising, while these poor boys and young men, because they're not even going to get to be young men. That's the horror of it. It's like you're marching them off to war, and these large corporations are putting billboards at the side of the road advertising walking boots. Sick. And it goes against the grain of protecting children. Well, or protecting our teenagers from themselves. I mean, the government must be absolutely loving it, because that's what did it say? It sorts out the weak from the strong. You know what makes society, the society that you live in, great? Is its ability to take care of disabled and ill people, and how it cares for its animals. Right? That is what defines how good is your society that you are living in, right? If you want to know how good humanity is, and how good your society is, how good your country is, judge it by how it takes care of its elderly, its sick, and its animals. And if you see something there that is not quite right, then that should be an alarm call to something's not quite right in your society. And I know it's written as a future America after a war has taken place, and after an economic depression has taken place. But there is something extremely wrong with society to have them stood as bystanders cheering these poor lads on that have no chance. And they don't know that they've got no chance until their third warning has happened, and suddenly there are no more warnings, right? And it comes so brutal and so sudden and so sickening. And these boys are being taken off the side of the road, and they are, they're getting awarded the DCM. They don't come Monday, or don't come any day, right? And there are people there going, "Yay! Oh, excuse me. Ouch. Yay! You can do it! You're going to be amazing!" And they're hearing that as they're getting their ticket punched. And half of them aren't quite believing it's really happening. And the look of horror on the other boys' faces when they suddenly realise that this isn't a game anymore, this is real life. And there they are, marching on, terrified now that they are next, right? And absolutely pleading and begging, no, don't let it be me, don't let it be me. And yet there's only one winner in this entire story. Only one winner. And just say that you were that winner. Yeah? Just say you won. Your body at this point will be absolutely broken. You will be beyond exhausted if you just don't keel over at the end of the long walk. I mean, how long can you walk? That's a good question. You don't know until you have to do it. And say you've been doing it for 3 whole days and nights and you have not stopped. You have to eat on the go. You have to do whatever else number ones and twos while you're on the go. And you're watching everybody starting to fall down, right? After about 2 days, you're down to half. Yeah. And you've had the horror of having to listen to them getting awarded the DCM. Yeah? And you start looking around, and where there were 100, now there are 75. And you look up again, and then there are 50. And then you're dropping down to 25. But you're still there, and you're still doing, and you're still going strong. And then you start dropping down to 15. And then we're down to 10. And you're still in it. This time, though, you've got cramp. You've got such a bad cramp that your arch of your foot has locked. And you can not stop. Not for a minute, not for a second. You may have had 2 warnings. And yet you still have to keep putting one foot in front of the other to get you where you're going. And then you're down to 5, and you're still there with this terrible cramp in your foot. Yes, Alan, I'm still here with the eternal battle of laundry. You know, I could get the 3-minute warning and I still won't be able to leave my ironing board. Or 4-minute warning, actually, as it used to be. Anyway, so you're now down to the last 5. And it's eyeball to flipping eyeball at this point in your life. And you're all limping. The blood is pouring out your feet. You're ill. Your heart is racing. You haven't slept for 3 days. You walked hundreds of miles. And you're looking at the last 5, right? All of them are also looking at you. And each and every one of you has been through hell. You've all heard the crack of the rifle and the DCMs. Yeah? And now you are left wondering, out of the 5 that are walking, and maybe you've covered 200, 300 miles at this point, and you are exhausted. And then number 5 faints in front of you, and he cannot get up. No matter how hard he tries, he's unconscious. His body has reached its limit, and he can no longer go on. And you can't turn around and help him, because if you do, it's an instant. Oh yeah, if you turn and help anybody on this walk, it's an instant DCM for you as well. And you don't have to have a warning, I don't think. I think you just get like, maybe you do get a warning. It's a while since I've read the book. And in fact, I was listening to it on an audio not so long back. But anyway, you cannot go and help this individual who is unconscious. And you're now wondering whether or not, because they've just been, right? That's it. They've had it. And you're wondering, maybe that point where they fell forwards and slipped into unconsciousness was a blessing, because they no longer have to do this enduring, grueling, brutal walk. And you're actually flirting with the idea of maybe sitting down and just never getting back up again. And you are really flirting with that idea. But there's something in your mind that's saying, must go on, right? And then somebody else, the heart gives out and they just keel over, and that's that. So now you're down to 3. And you're all looking at each other, knowing one of you, only one of you, is going to go over. And then there's no finish line. That's the thing. There isn't a finish line. And it's the last man standing. It's that simple. And it's genius is the story writing. I mean, it would be Stephen King. But and the horror of knowing, right, the 3 of you are there and you're walking and there's crowds are in the thousands and they're all screaming hysterically, especially the ones that have been gambling on you. We're allowed to place bets on who will get, who's most likely to be the last one standing. I mean, I told you there's something very wrong with society when they are allowed to bet on whether or not one young man is going to be the last man standing after the long walk. And this isn't the first time this country's done this. It's an annual bloody event. You know, put it on their calendars as something that they look forward to. The 1st of May. And they do the long walk. And, you know, and they plan family picnics. Picnics. We're watching these poor condemned souls who have written an essay to, hoping that they're going to be the lucky one that gets picked. What about God's green earth? Did anybody think, marketing on this is going to be phenomenal? Just think of all the ad revenue that we're going to get through. That just astounds me. If I had a young son and he said, "Hey, Ma, I'm thinking of going on a long walk," I'd be like, right? So anyway, you're down to the last 3. You're all eyeball to eyeball at this point. Maybe you've lost your shoe and you've been walking for 50, 100 miles with no shoes. Your feet are going to be cut to ribbons. Your level of agony must be through the roof, And yet, you're still putting one foot in front of the other and eyeballing the 2 there at the side of you. And they're eyeballing you as well. Don't forget that, right? And you're thinking, I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. Everything hurts. I feel sick. My legs don't work. I can't remember what my name is. You know, because you'll be at that point, you'll be so, you'll be delirious. You know, how your body is still able to put one foot in front of the other is baffling. And yet, there you are, like I said, living the dream, doing the long walk. And they're shuffling and stumbling because you're not walking at this point. You're literally, you're making like, I think you'd probably be walking like C3PO at this point, you know, like that. And then one more falls over. So it's down to two of you. And now you really are getting a bit tasty. And we are a bit at the races at this point. And everybody's either yelling your name or the person that's next to you. But you've heard it doesn't mean anything at this point because even words, you can't even understand. You have been out without sleep now for probably 3 days, maybe 4 days, I think. That was the longest that they did was 4 days in one of the years that they did it. And it just sounds like white noise, which can be quite hypnotic. And it can also, when you are being deprived of sleep for that length of time and you have not been allowed to rest, because even I would suppose that your brain is starting to drift. And then the person that's at the side of you is feeling all this as well. And you can't even eyeball each other anymore because you're so tired. And you just, all you wanting is for this hell to end. You just don't want to do it anymore. And you literally feel that, you know, preferably throwing yourself down on the ground must be better than having to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Now, if you're thinking that, then the person that's next to you is probably thinking that too. But you don't know because you haven't got access to their mind. You've only got access to your own. And suddenly, it's like a realization of hell, I would imagine. Absolute realization of hell. That here you are, seriously considering giving yourself the DCM. And your opponent next to you falls over. And at this point, you're nearly falling over with this person. Now, they try to get back up, but they are so tired and they are so weak from not having had any rest for the last 3 full days and nights. And they're crying and they can't even speak at this point. They can't even communicate, please don't kill me. Please don't award me the DCM. And they're making the sort of incoherent blabbering. And yet, and you're still stumbling off down the street, you know, without your shoes on. Your feet are cut to ribbons. And you're not entirely sure whether or not you heard the crack of the rifle or not. And then the noise just goes insane. It's like a cacophony of all the devils in hell start screaming and jumping up and down and yelling and carrying on, and you can't understand what they're saying, you know, and they're shouting out, "We've got a winner! And you won, and and what have you won? Exactly. What have you won? You know, you're probably never going to be able to walk properly ever again. Your health is shot to hell. Yet you aren't allowed within the winning of this. Yeah, the ultimate prize, huh? You get to live. Wow. You get to live with the knowledge of 99 young lads are all never going to see another day. That's what you've won. Not the money, not the prestige, the fact and knowledge that you and only you have made it to the end. Now, how many of you, after you've done that, are actually going to be able to live with the fact that you've seen and heard 99 other young men, and they're going to do it all again next year because, hey, corporate America, think about the ad revenue. Especially when you're advertising walking boots. That's the one that got me the most. Now, isn't that an absolute horror? It's a very basic premise. It's a long walk. Who's alive at the end of it? Winner takes all. Think of the ad revenue. Darlings, why don't we go and have a jolly picnic and we can cheer everybody on? Yeah, great. Mum. Don't forget to pack the Scotch eggs. And yet, from that has spawned things like the Hunger Games. Oh, sorry, I've got some messages I didn't realise. Public hangings, Alan, and treated like a day out. That's just sick. Even the London Underground, when it first started operating in the 1860s, used to offer discount tickets to watch the hangings. I don't know. How? You know, it just does not make sense. And they just made a movie about it, and I've just said, here, take my money. I can't wait to go and see it. And do you know what? I think that is seriously what is wrong with us as a society. We can't turn ourselves away from it. You know, here we are. Somehow, I just don't. Wow. And we all do it. And that's the thing. We either read about it or we watch it on a movie or the television, and I'm just spat. I just said, here, Mark Hamill's in it. Take my money. I have to go and see The Long Walk. I enjoyed the. I know I say it. I enjoyed the book. It was an amazing book because it was metaphorical. Because it turned round and said, this is us. This is who we are. You're not cheering on the underdog, you're cheering on the Undertaker. And wow, doesn't that say a lot about us as a society when we're here going, woohoo, can't wait to see who's going to drop. Will it be contestant number one? Yeah, it's an amazing book. and it's called The Long Walk. I think 1978. I'll just check that for you. The Long Walk. Not, it would just say novel by Stephen King, but it was Richard Bachman when it was written. 1979. So it's not quite 50 years old, but it soon will be. And if you haven't read that book and you're looking for something to read this month, with it being set in May, then yeah, I think it's set in May. Oh, here I am saying it's set in May. Let me see. The plot. It doesn't actually say. I'm thinking May. Anyway, yeah, I reckon it's set in May, and it's just wow, horrific. So yeah, if you want to go see it, I know it stars Mark Hamill. The trailer just dropped the other day. It was written in 1979, so it's not quite 50 years old, but you know, it makes me wonder about authors, writers, etc. That do they have a crystal ball? And if so, or can they see things that we can't? You know, they get a feel for society way before society does. It's that society drifts, right? It drifts from crisis to crisis, situation to situation. And the one thing about history is nobody learns from history. And I know this was written in an alternate universe. Okay, so we could call it Alice Through the Looking Glass at this point. Just make sure I've got that sleeve just the way I like. And maybe it's a reflection upon us as we go through reality, the reality of this life. You don't know. But yeah, I mean, just imagine you're that last one standing. I won't say the character's name because obviously I don't want to spoil the story. But the upshot is this one character is left, and I don't know how I'd feel knowing I'd outlived the other 99. Knowing that I could have whatever it was that I wanted. Because that's the ultimate prize, is you can ask the major for whatever it is that your heart desires. I don't know. I just can't imagine as well a society that would approve and give authority to allow such an event as the Long Walk to even exist and to televise it as well. You know, and I'm like radio hosts and television hosts you know, it's like watching the London Marathon, and then instead of giving them all a medal, you're giving them the DCM. You know, and Flora would be sponsoring it. See the audacity and the insanity of this. You know, every time you went into the fridge, you'd be crying every time you looked at a tub of Flora. You'd be like, no, don't make me eat this product. You see where I'm coming from? You know, it's just, if you follow it to its natural conclusion, at some point, some way, somehow, Death Race 2000 is another classic example. You know, one I have seen the original with Sly Stallone. Yeah. And I think it was David Carradine. Now, what year I'm getting old now. Let's see. Death Race 2000. 1975. So that came out before this book. And yeah, it's David Carradine. Yeah, he was the main character. And Sylvester Stallone was Machine Gun Joe. Manarino was Sylvester Stallone. And David Carradine was, hang on, it'll come to me, Frankenstein. Right? And what they did is they did a pole to pole across America driving. Yeah. And you know, whoever they hit racked up points, because back then points didn't mean having your license taken off you. Points meant prizes. Woo! You know, there they are, driving down the road, running over hapless victims that happen to be on the road, because hey, the rules are, if you're on the road, it's fair game, and we'll run over you, and that's that. And there's a scene right at the beginning when they're all starting their engines at the start of the race, and I think it's a priest or a vicar. I'm pretty sure it's a priest. And there he is giving the blessings, children of the future America. Why had to set in America again? Obviously, you know, people have got beef with America. Any road. There he is, he's blessing them, and then they all vroom, and take off and go charging down the road. Except for one, which I think was Frankenstein, played by David Carradine, who decided that he was going to reverse and drive over the priest, thus getting his first point and a rapturous round of applause from the audience, who are in the auditorium going, "We believe in you, Frankenstein." And you just, yeah, okay, take my money, I'm watching this film. I first saw that film, I think I must have been 18. It's a wee while ago. And yeah, I can remember just watching it thinking, blimey, you don't stand a cat in hell's chance if you get seen by these vehicles. You know, don't be on whatever it is that you're doing, stay at home. Right? So you will be there on Monday. Just while they drive through your particular neck of the woods. And anyway, this scene, and it will stay in my mind until they put me in the ground. It was a hospital, and all the terminally ill, infirm, and too old to care for themselves were all wheeled out in their wheelchairs, right, and left in the middle of the road. And we all know what's coming down the road. That's right, Mr. Motorcar. And all of the doctors and nurses. I mean, International Nurses Day today as well, but no reflection on the nurses that we have now. But anyway, getting back to the plot of the film. All these poor hapless people stuck in wheelchairs or on hospital trolleys and left in the middle of the road. And with the thought that one of the main racing cars is going to come through and obviously score a lot of points. And the cars do come through. And instead of running over the patients, and I think it's Frankenstein, the driver, David Carradine, decides to avoid hitting all the patients and proceeds to drive off the road and behind a hedge where lots of screaming and crying and arms and legs and heads just go all over. And then you find out, you realise it wasn't the patients who were running over, it was the doctors and nurses that were hiding behind the hedge, wanting to watch the patients getting run over. And honestly, that one scene will stay with me until they put me in the ground. Stunning. My jaw was on the floor. So if you've never seen Death Race 2000, don't see that pile of junk that they redid it, because it's just the only thing that remake is good for is burning. It is not a good, it doesn't capture the rawness that the other one did in 75. We must have a very, very bleak attitude and outlook for America in the future. Because, I mean, obviously it was set for the year 2000. Thank goodness when the year 2000 came round, we weren't really participating in such activities. I mean, another one, Rollerball. Who doesn't like a little bit of James Caan? Yeah. Jonathan E., the most famous rollerball player there ever was, and his best friend, Moonpie. Oh no, that was the character's name, Moonpie. It was actually based on a short graphic novel from... See, the memory's gone again. Let's check it out. Rollerball. Hang on. Rollerball. 1975. Another absolutely banging film that came out in 1975. Well, let's see, what year was that set for? In the not too distant future, wars will no longer exist, but there will be rollerball, because there are 6 corporations who rule. Yeah, rollerball Murder, 1973, short story by William Harrison. Right? Jonathan E., played by James Caan, is the lead player in Rollerball. And I will not say this word, corporatocracy. The film centres on the titular sport, an often brutal spectacle used to help placate the populace. Jonathan E. Caan, the sport's top player, finds himself at odds with the ruling powers when his popularity threatens to hurt their grip on power. And basically all he is he's playing. Oops. He's playing his rollerballing, and it's like, have you ever heard of a British game called British Bulldogs? Well, it's like the more violent version of British Bulldogs Charge with dodgeball rules on motorbikes, right? And the aim of the game is to score more points than the other team by also obliterating the opposition, of the opposite team, by any means necessary. And if you're going to award them the DCM, then do it by, I don't know, any way you can. Whether it be with your rollerblades, throwing this round ball that you're supposed to catch that looks more like a hand grenade, and I'm just generally doing whatever it takes to beat the living daylights out of the other side of the opposition. And like we said, where the long walk, whoever's left on the playing field at the end of said session, may they be awarded with the drug of choice, whatever that is, with their ease and whatever else the corporations deem necessary to make them feel better. And you get the gist. If you become a top player in rollerball, you're either very, very lucky, very, very skilled, both, or you are being protected for a reason until the corporations no longer need you. Imagine that. You're living in a world where 6 major corporations rule it. They've all divided up what they want you to have. Each one then controls the masses. There's a scene where Jonathan's trying to find out about the history, and he wants to go to the library. And the librarian, who's very glamorous, almost like by Playboy standards glamorous. And she's going, why do you want to look at a dusty old book, honey? Ain't history gonna teach you nothing? And Jonathan's like, but I need to know. Like, I can't just accept it. I'm giving Jonathan a right Yorkshire accent. Hey, love, like, I need to know. I can't just go through and accept that this is how it is and how it's always been and how it always will be. So, off Jonathan goes down the rabbit hole. In the meantime, lots of nasty, awful things happen to Jonathan. And if you haven't seen the film, I won't spoil it for you. But he does end up being victorious at the end. But does he win? It depends how you define winning. What has he won exactly? The right to keep on playing rollerball? It's a very weird. It's weird. And the fact that they use classical music as well makes it even weirder. And honestly, that is what Hollywood is missing at the moment. I'm not advocating making dystopian movies with classical music, with classical actors like James Caan. But at least it was original, you know. At least it wasn't a franchise. I think my customers will be very happy with this. It was absolutely, unbelievably a brilliant time, the 1970s. Originality for movies, the way music was coming towards us, the way that literature was happening. Let's talk about another one. Stepford Wives. Ira Levin. You probably know him more for Rosemary's Baby. But our Ira wrote a book about a little sleepy town called Stepford, where the women were unbelievably beautiful, stunning in every way. Their children were perfect, and their houses wouldn't have looked out of place in Home and Country magazine. And the men were happy, and everybody wanted to live in Stepford until they did. The saying, "Oh my goodness, the housework is killing me," never knowingly undersold. Literally, the ironing is killing me. Here they are, these beautiful, glamorous women, never a hair out of place, not one wrinkle between them all. Beautiful in every way. They will do whatever their husband commands. They can't possibly be human, right? And that is the mystery of Stepford. What exactly have they put in the water there? You know, that the women are obsessed with cooking and cleaning and washing and ironing and are the children okay? And it's satirical. It's written satirically. You know, it's meant to be taken that way. The scene right at the beginning in the book and the film, there's a man. Joanna's watching a man walking down the sidewalk in New York carrying an inflatable doll. And that is your opening, really, to Stepford Wives. She's leaving New York because it's not very pleasant, it's not very safe. She wants her children to grow up in a nice, quiet, respectable part of the United States of America. She wants the dream. She wants the home, the house, the husband, the income. But there's always a price to pay. There will always be a price to pay for anything in life. It literally is a trade-off. What do you want more? And what are you prepared to give up in order to ensure that you get what you want? Because it's horrific. Have you ever seen, there's some spin-offs. There's the Stepford Wives 2, which starred one of the Cagney and Lacey team and a very young-looking Don Johnson. And there is Stepford Kids, Perfect Little Darlings. In fact, that reminds me, Richard Niederman wrote a book. I think they call it Perfect Little Darlings or Perfect Darlings. And it's a Richard Niederman book. And it's about these perfect children. Perfect, practically perfect in every way. Good grades. They're beautiful children. They're never naughty. Where do I get one of those from? says no mum ever. They're almost robots, aren't they? And then, of course, there is the one called Stepford Husbands, which was done, I think, 1990s. 39. The Stepford Wives trilogy. Revenge of the Stepford Wives, the Stepford Children, and the Stepford Husbands, as well as the 2004 film. So there's quite a lot of pop culture around the Stepford Wives. Stepford Husbands. 1996. Good grief, I was 20. Yeah, that's when that one came out. And the cast. Louise Fletcher, that was it. She was Miriam Benton, the doctor. Louise Fletcher, you will know her as Nurse Ratched from The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Nursey. Bringing back to nurses again, because it's International Nurses Day. In case you didn't know. There we are. So yeah, Stepford Wives, Stepford Husbands, Stepford Kids. Who doesn't want to go and live in Stepford, where the sky is always blue, the sun always shines, and your wife is always happy to see you? If you've not read the book, do so. Ira Levin, genius writer. He understands the nuances. Yes, he does. He once wrote a good dystopian novel as well called Perfect Day, I think. Ira Levin, Perfect Day. Sorry. Ira Levin. All right, I'll try writing it. Ira Levin. Yeah, it's called Perfect Day. And that one was written 1970. Gosh. Like I say, Ira understands humans. He understands the way we think. He understands what makes us tick. And his book, The Perfect Day, is very dystopian in nature. It's on my list of, I'm trying to find it, an original, because it's worth a pretty penny. But it's worth reading. It's sad in many ways. I've only heard it done in a play, but it's so long ago, I can't quite remember the premise of the plot. So it's one of those that I'm going to have to read again in a not too distant future, I hope. I quite like Ira Levin. I like the way the man's mind works. I value an educated mind above everything. I really do. To be able to sit down and have a conversation with someone, for me, is probably one of the most wonderful, beautiful experiences you could ever have on this planet. It's the form of communication, the form of being able to literally sit down and chat. And I like to talk about books and movies, music and plays. You know, I think the art of communication is probably one of the greatest gifts that we as a human being, as a race, could ever have. The ability to sit and talk to each other. You know, there is a famous Bill Murray film called Lost in Translation. And sometimes things do get lost in translation, don't they? Oh, I'm nearly done. Oh, you have been so lovely to keep me company while I've been doing the ironing. Mondays to Thursdays, you'll find me in this room, singing a little song and doing all the ironing, of which I do not mind. It is therapy for me to be able to stand and talk and iron. So anyway, that's given me a few things to think about, hasn't it? Books to look at, films that you might have never have considered watching, but ha, you're going to go out and watch them now. Yes, watch out, corporate America. Jonathan E. has a plan for you. And so does Stephen King. And maybe it's Frankenstein and his motor car. Oh, maybe the women of Stepford have got a mothers' meeting that you simply mustn't miss. I'll simply die if I don't get this recipe. Have you tried this new cleaning product? Yeah. The 1970s were obsessed was scaring the living bejesus out of us. And yet here we are. All those many years later, over 50 years later. And we're starting, are we? To see what their vision of our future was to them back then. I don't know. Society, for all its faults, tries its best under difficult circumstances and doesn't quite always get it right. But that doesn't stop it, does it? It keeps putting one foot in front of the other, gets you where you're going. Or does it? Maybe that's the horror within and the horror outside. Who knows? Imagine. I wonder what the next 50 years is going to look like. You know, I'm almost at that 50 point. You know, one more year, less than a year, I'll be 50. Yes, born in the summer of 76, I was. One of the hottest on record, according to statistics. And I wonder what's being written now will look like in 50 years' time. Will there be somebody out there who is the age I am now discussing books that were written in 2025 about what we thought the future was going to look like? And at this point, what I'm discussing it will be 100 years old. Isn't that mind-blowing? It will be 100 years old. And we'll still be talking about Stepford Wives. Will it be classic literature? Gosh, I hope so, actually. I hope it will be. I hope Stephen King will be like Bob Dylan. He will be remembered not for 50 years or 100 years, but it'd be like Will Shakespeare. I wonder if our pop culture in our society will put relevance to that. You know, will Jaws, the original Spielberg Jaws that came out in 74, will that be a classic? I mean, it's a classic to us, but will it be up there in the annals of history? You know, back in 1974, kids, we were all afraid to go in the water. You know? There we go. Done, my darlings, I am done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, darlings, 11. And two tea towels. and one hanky. Now, I have turned off the heat. We have a sticker to remove. We need ironing board, guard cloth, there we are. Nope. We're going to have to bring out the big guns. I was hoping to do it without having to steam. It seems I have no choice. Nope. Another little steamer. It's on the way, it's on the way. It's on its way. It's coming on. Why do they insist on putting stickers? Sticker, sticker, sticker. All right. Let this be a lesson to you, evil people that put stickers on things that don't require it. Absolute things. It's going to be a toughie, is this one? Oh, it's coming. We're melting the glue, you see. We need to be very careful that we don't melt something else. We don't want to melt the glue that binds the blinking thing. You need to be painstaking. Absolutely painstaking. Well, keep slow and steady, slow and steady. ask yourself, if you work in a second-hand bookstore, do you really, really, really need to put stickers on the cover of a book? Well, that's the sticker off. We've just got to get the glue off. There we go. The old rub and roll. Oh, slowly but surely. I was waiting until I'd finished all the ironing of the clothing before I did this. It really is very annoying. Right, I can no longer give it any more steam treatment like that. So I have to turn this off. The book is okay. It's not warped it. There we are. I haven't destroyed the spine. And we just have to patient, patient, patient. Yes, Alan. Humans have always been drawn to violent sports, Roman gladiators, their medieval joust, and even bullfighting still happens to this day. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Aren't we a bloodthirsty nation, Alan? Aren't we? Yeah. I mean, just think about it. Here we are, you know, doing what we do daily, and I get to read horror books. We are a rather bloodthirsty society, aren't we? I don't know. Maybe one day. There, that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, get me on camera. Maybe one day, the animals, the Day of the Animals with Leslie Nielsen. Maybe one day we might have them as our overlords. I don't know. Well, my darlings, I have been with you. Oh gosh, 1.5 hours. Well, I'm going to go and finish off doing what I'm doing with the business. And if I do any more ironing today, I'm sure I will pop on. And if I don't, well, then I will see you tomorrow. And I hope you've enjoyed my enthusiasm for horror. And thank you so much for being on, my darlings. And thank you, Alan, for being my beloved friend and has taken up the job of being a moderator. And I thank you so much, Alan, for protecting me I really do appreciate you, my darling. You've no idea. And if anybody wants to know what Alan does, he's an author and the most amazing writer. He really is. And he knows all about Lucy and the fading light. Oh, and if you want to go on a ghost tour, yes, he does ghost walks in London called the Fading Light. And I keep promising myself, but one day, Alan, I'll turn up. You'll have to take me in the tour. And I promise I'll be so good. Especially if you're taking other people around on the tour as well. And take care, my darlings. And I'll speak to you soon, Alan. All right, my darling. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.